keep SharePoint in my life for all of my career, which is an oddity these days that somebody will stick with a product that long. So I've kind of seen it through the good times and the bad times, through the early times as we were growing it up to where it is today, which is just, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's always exciting to see how many people show up on a Saturday morning to learn about SharePoint. And that's just a testament to the passion of the SharePoint community. So I'm glad to see that it's still there. People are still interested. I know for the past 12 to 18 months we haven't said a lot about SharePoint, but we are working on it. We've done a number of different things that people just haven't seen yet. Now obviously SharePoint 2016 is a big piece of how we're reinventing SharePoint, but in other ways that are less noticeable, we're also reinventing SharePoint in the cloud, and people may have seen some of those investments. Technologies such as the Office Graph and Office Delve, for those that are familiar with those, they're built on top of SharePoint. They're built on top of our fast search engine, which drives enterprise search in SharePoint. Technologies such as the video portal in Office 365 are driven by SharePoint. OneDrive for Business is driven by SharePoint, the evolution of what we used to call My Site. So SharePoint's evolving both on-premises and in the cloud, and to a certain extent, they're converging. And we'll talk a little bit about what that means for SharePoint as we move throughout the course of the next hour. So just to kind of take some of the newer people to SharePoint way back in time, unfortunately we're doing this a couple days after Back to the Future Day, but we're going to take a walk back and look at where SharePoint came from. So SharePoint's been around since the late 90s, late 99, early 2000, and it really took off in 2001 with SharePoint Portal Server. At that particular point in time, we were really focused on core collaboration and intranet portals. That was the trend in the early 2000s. Everybody wanted a portal. People were using WebSphere, Web Center, Plumtree, eRooms, a number of different things. And we felt like SharePoint was a great candidate to introduce into the market to drive those intranet portals and core collaborative scenarios. And then in 2003, we continued to evolve in that direction. Some of the things that we introduced on top of just the ability to upload a document and collaborate on it was the concept of a personal site. So really trying to make collaboration more personalized and more individual-centric. At the same time, we shipped what Christian called Microsoft Managed Solutions. That's what we call today Office 365. So SharePoint has been in the cloud for the better part of a decade already. And it really came to light with Office 365 a couple of years ago, but it's been around for a long time in the cloud. But the way we used to build the software is we always looked to our on-premises servers, Portal Server 2001 in this case, and Portal Server 2003, to drive what the cloud looked like. So they always defined our cloud offerings. And then in 2006 through 2009, we shipped 2 more versions of SharePoint. Office SharePoint Server 2007, which everybody affectionately called MOS, and then SharePoint Server 2010. We renamed it so nobody could call it MOS anymore. But so we moved to SharePoint Portal Server, or SharePoint Server 2010. At the same time, we shipped Microsoft Online Services. And we really focused on content management scenarios. That's when everybody was interested in document management, records management, those heavyweight ECM scenarios. They wanted auditing, they wanted compliance. So we focused on that trend. So we've always evolved SharePoint to address market trends. And at the same time, we shipped Microsoft Online Services, which was BPOS. And again, our on-premises software defined what our cloud release would look like. So that's always been the trend. We build something on premises, and then we deliver it to our customers in the cloud. In October of 2012, so on 10/11/12, we shipped our new Office, Office 2013, which encompassed the Office servers, SharePoint Server 2013, Exchange Server 2013, as well as OCS or Lync. So we shipped all of those products, and at the same time we shipped Office 365. Again, following market trends at the time, it was all about enterprise social and cloud. If you think about when we shipped SharePoint 2013 back in October of 2012, everybody wanted enterprise social. They wanted microblogging inside of the organization. They wanted gamification, a number of different things. So we addressed that market with that particular release. And then cloud became very important to us as we shipped Office 365. So that's kind of how we've been evolving SharePoint over time. We've always addressed industry trends as much as possible. with our product. We shipped on a 3-year release cadence, and we always defined our cloud through our on-premises software. But things have changed in the past couple of years. For one, the cloud has become more pervasive. It's everywhere. It's Salesforce, it's Creative Cloud, it's Box, it's Dropbox, it's Office 365. So the cloud has become more and more strategic to a lot of different companies, whether it's software as a service or infrastructure as a service. And if you think about recent reports, by 2020 they say that almost 30% or more of all IT spending is going to be on the cloud as opposed to on-premises. By on the cloud, that can mean a number of different things. It can mean private clouds, it can mean public clouds. But cloud is here, and cloud is here to stay. And that's where most companies' investments are moving. If you think about Amazon and a lot of our local favorites, all of their revenue is being derived from cloud computing. So the cloud's going to be very important as we move forward. The big question that always comes up is, hey, I'm in IT, what does that mean to me? The cloud is not a good thing because the cloud's going to take my job. The way to address the cloud is look at it as an opportunity. We know you're being asked to do more. So it used to be you were asked to patch servers. So every patch Tuesday, the second Tuesday of even-numbered months, or the second Tuesday of every other month, depending on what type of patch we ship, that's what you did. And you kept servers up, and you met SLA, and that's what you did. You were a cost center, unfortunately. And that's the way that many organizations looked at IT, as a cost center. And the cloud takes away a lot of what you used to do, but it doesn't mean that there's not opportunity. You're being asked to do a lot more. One, evolve from being a cost center to adding value to the organization, to build better user experiences, to advance innovation, and to drive business processes. So they're really looking to IT as part of this transformation in a lot of companies. IT can be an enabler in a cloud-centric world. There's an opportunity that you can demonstrate how to overcome these challenges. Doesn't mean that on-premises is going to go away, but more and more organizations are going to continue to invest their energies into the cloud. They want that constant innovation, and they want those iterations of software to come to their users to really drive better user experiences. There's huge opportunity. It's basically moving away from being that systems administrator and adding value to your organization by bringing cloud in and embracing cloud as IT. There's a number of different things that you can do, and we'll talk about how all of this aligns to SharePoint Server 2016 here in a moment. Because what we focus on with SharePoint Server 2016 are cloud-inspired experiences. And we'll talk about what we mean by cloud-inspired experiences. So again, SharePoint 2016 is going to be representative of a new cloud world, the new industry trend. So if you look across the trends, you can see them evolve over time. From intranet portals that resided purely on premises, to content management systems, to cloud and enterprise social, to cloud-inspired experiences, deriving capability from the cloud to add value to organizations. And really, that's the way to think about it from an IT perspective, and we'll talk about some of the ways that we're doing that. SharePoint 2016 is unique because it's the first version of SharePoint that was built in the cloud and delivered to on-premises. So if you think about how we've always built SharePoint, the way I talked about it is we build an on-premises server, and then we ship it to the cloud to enable Microsoft Managed Solutions, online services, and eventually Office 365. The last version to land in Office 365 was SharePoint Server 2013, a piece of software we designed explicitly for on-premises use that we brought to the cloud. Over the course of the past 3 years, we've continued to build SharePoint on top of 2013, but we've built it in the cloud, and that's where 2016 comes from. So this is the first time we're building software in the cloud and then bringing it back to our customers on premises. We're focused on 3 core areas of investment in 2016, what we call experiences, innovation, and compliance are our 3 core value pillars that we're building SharePoint 2016 under. Since we're building it in the cloud, you accrue a lot of the benefits of what we've learned both operationally as well as how users approach software and work on a day-to-day basis. So we'll talk first about some of the user experiences. We're focused on 3 core sub-areas within modern user experiences. 1, we want first-class mobile experiences to be built into SharePoint. We also want personalized insight. Big data is a term that everybody's heard a lot over the course, probably more often than we use the term Yammer. We use the term big data. But people want insight into data. They want to experience the data. That used to be largely relegated to those who had a need to know, data scientists, data analysts. but we want to bring that information back to the users. There's a lot of value in having that information. And then lastly, storage and collaboration. We really want to get back to our roots in what we did well. If you think about earlier versions of SharePoint, we always tried to boil the ocean, particularly with 2007. When we were in the 2001 and 2003 time frame, it was collaboration, it was intranet portals, and we added some personalization aspects through personal sites. But then we got to 2007 and we really tried to boil the ocean. We said, why not do internet portals? Why not do business intelligence? Why not do social? Why not do enterprise content management? Why not build a developer platform? So we continue to add more and more and more. Unfortunately, when you do that, you start to dilute your available engineering resources. So you can't put all of your focus on one great thing. With SharePoint 2016, that's what we want to be able to do. We want to be able to steer our engineering resources to do a couple of things great as opposed to trying to boil the ocean. So from an experiences perspective, again, we're focused on mobile, enabling previews within SharePoint, enabling great apps, and improving the sharing experience. So as opposed to talking about them, I'm going to show you some of the early stuff that we are doing with the user experiences. So here we are at my favorite company's intranet portal. So this is Fabricam. And Fabricam just acquired Contoso Pharmaceuticals. It was a great day, good day for the markets and good day for our shareholders here at Fabricam. But this is SharePoint 2016. The first thing that you'll notice is it shares a lot of affinity from a user experience perspective with SharePoint 2013. And that's been intentional. SharePoint 2013 really is the genesis block of SharePoint 2016 and SharePoint Online. But what we've been able to do is take a lot of what we've done with SharePoint in the cloud and bring it back to on-premises. A couple of great examples is the cloud enables us to do some interesting things in respect to A/B testing. We can look and see how users react to different changes. So it's kind of the placebo effect. One of the things that we did is we found that users frequently didn't use the ribbon. It was far too complicated and had way too many commands when they wanted to perform a simple operation such as sharing a document or uploading a document to a document library. So through our A/B testing, we determined that we could facilitate more collaboration by simplifying that experience, and that's what you see here. So if I go into a document library, you'll notice on the document library, I have this new control surface. This control surface puts right at my fingertips all of the easy commands that I need and the ones that users need most frequently. The reason we did that in A/B testing showed us that we had 50% improvement in uploads simply by adding this simple command surface to document libraries. In the past, you would end up somewhere like here or somewhere like here. And for an end user, that's complicated. There's a lot of commands. Many of them are completely irrelevant to what a user exactly wants to do, so that's why we introduced this command surface on top of document libraries. Another thing that we've done is if I come in here, we've added some support for mobile, so you'll notice that I have an open link on phone icon. I can click on that and generate a QR code to quickly access a document. If I wanted to look at this through the mobile perspective, I can quickly see who documents are shared with. That's another change that we've derived from the cloud. Down here, we have what we call a durable link. It's a link that exists that I can rename the document. So in this case, I can take this particular link, as you can see it here, and I'll just copy it. Then I'll take the document, and this is something that users do all the time. So now I'm in the document. I'm just going to go ahead, come in, go into Properties. It's called Contoso Overview. And we'll just say Contoso Overview Final, and we'll save the new name of the document. So if you remember on my clipboard, I put the link to the document. So we'll let that save, and now I have a brand new document, Contoso Overview Final. But if I plug in the URL, it'll actually take me to the document even though I've renamed it. So that's what we call a durable link. One of the things that our customers told us is users are always renaming documents, but always moving documents. Documents start as a draft, they get revised several times, they become final, they get shipped off to another document library. So one of the things we wanted to make easy is you don't want to have to continue to send out the link or deal with an inundation of emails that say, hey, I can't get to the document. I get a 404, or there's a problem. So a durable link allows you to get to that document regardless of what's transpired in that document's life cycle. And the way it works is we always append a document with a unique identifier. So as you can see here, the original document name's pervasive in the link itself, but that unique identifier is the way that we perform lookups within SharePoint, within the content database, to determine how we should act upon a document. So that's one of the new end user features as well. So just moving back, as you can see, we've also got previews that are being driven by Office Online Server. Don't be confused by the name Office Online Server. Office Online Server is an on-premises server that you install and deploy. It used to be called the Office Web Applications, or what we've affectionately referred to as WAC. Sharing has become more simplified and easier to do, so I can go in and I can quickly share a document. So the people picker has been improved. I can click Seth, and then I can choose a permission level and click Share, and it's done. So the end user improvements we've been making over time are getting better and better. We've also started some of the early investments in mobile. So in this particular case, I can generate a mobile view by appending the URL. The reason I'm doing it this way is because I'm on a browser. So as you can see, we have a mobile view. So if this was a mobile device, we could pretend it looked something like this, is what you would see on a mobile device. I can go in and view documents, and I can take action upon those as well. I can also go in and use the app launcher to quickly navigate across OneDrive and sites. And then I can go back to the site homepage in a mobile view if I'm in a document library, or I can go back to PC view. So some of the early mobile investments are coming. This isn't representative of everything that we anticipate doing from a mobile perspective or an end user perspective. These are some of the early investments that we've made through our IT preview that we released just a few weeks ago. So coming back to this real quick, let's talk a little bit more about some of the other investments we're making. The other pillar was innovation, cloud-inspired infrastructure. And we're focused on three core tenets within this particular investment pillar. Performance and reliability is one of the things that we're hyper-focused on. We're hyper-focused on it because we need it to work in the cloud, and we need it to work for our customers on premises. We also want to build flexible hybrid options. So we understand in a cloud-first, mobile-first world, there's going to be customers that remain on premises for the foreseeable future for a variety of reasons. It could be corporate or regulatory compliance, data sensitivity concerns, investment and customization, data sovereignty concerns. There's a number of reasons why you would want to remain on premises. But for many organizations, they want to take advantage of the cloud as well because they feel like the cloud is leaving them behind. They're becoming archaic in the way that they operate, and the cloud is constantly being innovated upon and taking businesses further. So they want the greater business mobility, but they also want the same control that they've always had in the past. And this is where the IT opportunity exists. It's a way to become that value-added service broker through those flexible hybrid options because, one, you can sustain your on-premises deployments while at the same time delivering innovation to end users. And then lastly, we're also focused on support and monitoring. So on the innovation side, we've done a number of different things to date. Some of those are we've streamlined the infrastructure. We'll take a look at that here in a moment. We've improved search, list thresholds. We've added new telemetry options. We've taken dependency on new protocols to make bandwidth utilization more efficient and to make end-user operations faster. And then we've also introduced new technologies such as fast site creation to really drive those performance and scale pillars. So from a hybrid perspective, looking at that one in particular, it's all about the Microsoft Cloud. And what does that mean? It's productivity services and it's Cloud OS. Effectively, it's Office 365 and Windows Azure. Those are the two key components in our cloud that we want to integrate SharePoint 2016 with. We've also made a number of key performance improvements. So from those performance improvements, some of the things that we've done is we've implemented BITS. The BITS protocol, or Background Intelligent Transfer Service, makes much more efficient use of bandwidth by using unclaimed bandwidth for document operations, be it upload operations or download operations. In the past, we used a proprietary protocol that we called Microsoft File Synchronization via SOAP over HTTP. It was a great protocol. It worked well, but at the same time, we needed something that worked better, particularly in a world that's driven by cloud. We've also optimized all of our code paths for specific use case scenarios. So web front-end servers truly become a web front-end server, not just by the role that you provision on it, but the way that we've written our code paths. We've defined what a front end is, what an application server is. So we've really improved performance as well. The other thing we've done is faster server-side latency as well as simplifying management. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and take a quick peek at some of these investments that we've made. And the first thing I want to start with is looking at some of the improvements that we've made just from a deployment perspective. So if you think about how many people have deployed SharePoint on premises in this room. So most of you have. So all of you are familiar with the prerequisite installer, and all of you are probably familiar with the SharePoint Products Configuration Wizard, or psconfig. And typically what happens is you install SharePoint and you choose one of two installation options. You choose a standalone installation or a complete installation. A complete installation just laid down all of the binaries and then you can create a server farm from there. A standalone installation installed SQL Express and it gave you a single box farm. That's dead. We've killed that. So you can no longer perform standalone installations with 2016. Basically what we've done is we've decoupled SQL Server Express and SharePoint. It doesn't mean that you can't do a single server install. You can still do it. You install SQL Server separately. For us to become more efficient, we needed to decouple a lot of technologies that used to be embedded inside of SharePoint. The other thing as well is there was no idea of a front-end server. There wasn't documentation, so if you went to TechNet or you read people's blogs, they talked about web front ends, they talked about application servers, but it didn't really exist. The only reason a front end was a front end and an app server was an app server, it was by virtue of the services that you deployed on it or that server's position in the topology itself. So you put a couple servers behind a load balancer and they responded to end user requests. That's what made them a web server. Application servers were application servers because you put search or Excel services or something like that on them. So there was really no concept of role-based installation with SharePoint other than documentation. And then we had a set of best practices we documented as well. Here's the way you should optimize a front end. Here's the way you should optimize an application server. Here are the services that you should put on them. Well, that's complicated because nobody ever reads it anyway, and they just click next, 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 next. So what we've decided to do is simplify the deployment process by really bringing SharePoint into more of an exchange type scenario where you can perform role-based installation. So I've already got SharePoint installed, so what I'm going to do is just run psconfig real quick. Looks a lot like it did in 2013 and earlier versions of SharePoint. So I'm going to click yes, and what I'm going to do is create a new server farm real quick. So here I am, database server. I will specify my database server, and I'll call this config2, and then I'm going to put in my service account real quick. So all of this looks relatively the same as it always has. I'm going to click next, and now I'm going to put a farm passphrase in there. It's PASS@word1. In case anybody wants to join their server to my farm. I'm going to click next, and you'll notice something new just happened here. This is what's changed in SharePoint 2016. SharePoint 2016 now supports technology that internally we call MinRole. It's basically role-based installation. So as you can see here, I can choose from a number of different options, whether I want a single server farm or a multiple server farm. So I can choose front end. And effectively what happens at this point is when you choose front end, we optimize all of the code paths on that particular server role for fast performance. It also automatically provisions all of the necessary services to facilitate what we believe a web front-end server should do. Application server, on the other hand, as you can see, we optimized all the code paths for fast throughput. So really what we're doing is it's not just installing the right services to facilitate its corresponding role. We've also made changes in the code to optimize them for each of these scenarios. We have a server for distributed cache. And these servers we've optimized for fast performance as well. In addition, we've made a number of improvements to distributed cache. So distributed cache usually would fall down due to authentication and the way that we handled authentication. So now what we've done is we switch off NTLM authentication inside of the distributed cache as we address requests that come into the farm, which allows us to scale greater, and it also allows us to achieve higher SLAs. That's important because we run the same software in Office 365. SharePoint 2016 effectively is driving the experiences in 365. You have search servers, and then lastly you have custom. So as we started to develop this, our early adopters of SharePoint 2016 said, hey, I still want to deploy SharePoint in the way that I used to. I don't want this funky role-based installation thing. I just want to do whatever I want. I want it to be role agnostic and just provision whatever I want on it. That's what custom role does. Custom role effectively gives you that opportunity. And then lastly, you have single server. Single server just installs all of the services and provisions everything you need to facilitate a one machine farm. But we didn't just stop there. Let's just go ahead and flip over to another screen real quick. All of this has minimize this. All of this has a role later on. Here we are in central administration. So if I go in to manage servers in this farm, you're going to notice that there is a server role column, and in this case I have a single server farm. Why is that there? As you can see, because we monitor compliance. So not only do these roles get provisioned by virtue of what you select, not only are the code paths optimized for their corresponding role, but we also monitor these roles at the same time. So in this particular case, I have a single server farm. You can see the services I have installed on it, and you can also see that it's in compliance. So basically what happens is if you provision a front end, but then somebody errantly installs a service on it that's not optimized for that particular role, you'll get notified via central administration that that server has fallen out of its respective role. If I go back, one of the other things that you'll see is services now are enabled for auto provisioning. And basically what that means is because I selected a single server farm, it programmatically provisioned all the services necessary to facilitate that role. If I would have chosen web front end, it would have facilitated provisioning of all of the services related to a web front end's role. So as you can see, we're doing a lot of programmatic things on the back end. It used to be install SharePoint, and then you went into central administration, and you started services and you provisioned services. Now we take care of a lot of that work for you. So as you can see, Microsoft SharePoint Insights is a service that was automatically provisioned based on my role selection. I can actually disable automatic provisioning as well. And then you can see whether or not something is in compliance or not. So that also shows there as well. So that's what we've done from an installation perspective to date. And it's not going to be the end of the installation work that we do. We're going to make setup easier and easier. But this is really to get you in a position to where your topologies look a lot like the same topologies we use to drive Office 365. In Office 365, we contractually bound to deliver a certain SLA, which is 3 nines, and we do that on a consistent basis. And we do it because we've figured out how to build topologies that map to that. And that's what we're doing for you, is enabling a lot of our education, running SharePoint at scale, and accruing that back to on-premises. Another thing that we're doing that will come in our release candidate release, which is later this year. So we've already shipped IT Preview, and then we're going to ship a release candidate, is we're enabling a thing that we call SharePoint Insights. And effectively what that is SharePoint Insights sends to our telemetry engine anonymous usage reports from your SharePoint environment. So you can take advantage of a lot of the same telemetry that we have available to us when you're running SharePoint at scale as well. So you'll be apprised of different user operations, who's uploaded a document, who's downloaded it, what type of document did they upload, how frequently is X document used versus Y document, which users are accessing which features most frequently, which features are breaking. So we have a number of different reports we're going to enable in our release candidate to drive greater telemetry and greater analytics in SharePoint as well. The other thing that I talked about is fast site creation. So here we are on another front end. One of the things that people complained about is site creation was inordinately slow. Every time I provision a new site collection for users, they have to wait 15 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, half an hour. The reason is because when we provision a site, we look to the site's template, and then we grab the features, and then we go out and do feature activation and feature provisioning, and it takes a long time. It's a heavyweight operation. And the more of these that you use, I thought I was having a stroke there for a minute, but the more of those that are provisioned simultaneously or concurrently, the slower things get. So fast site creation is a way to improve site creation performance. So in this SharePoint environment, I'm going to go ahead and enable fast site creation. And basically what's happening now is I'm going to enable this feature in my environment. So we'll give this a second, and fast site creation is now enabled. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a new site master. So I'm just going to go ahead and go back into PowerShell, and I'm going to create a site master. We'll talk about what these things are. So basically what I'm doing now is I'm telling SharePoint I want to enable a feature called fast site creation. And SharePoint said okay, because it didn't error out on me or throw me a correlation ID. And now what I'm doing is creating a site master. So my site master is going to be based on the STS Pound Zero, the team site template. And what it's doing right now is it's actually creating a copy of a blank team site, provisioning it in a content database, and then every subsequent request to create a new team site will be provisioned from this master. So if you think about what that means, you avoid or mitigate all of the feature activation overhead, because all you're doing is copying rows from point A in the database to point B, because now you have a master or a source, and all you have to do now is just give it a destination. So what we're doing is a database level copy using SP Site Copy, as opposed to actually provisioning one through our own APIs. So it takes a lot of the overhead associated with provisioning sites away, because now it's just a database operation. It's copying rows from point A to point B and rewriting them there. So all the dependency falls on SQL I/O as opposed to traversing our APIs. So that's what fast site creation does. As you can see, it created my site master. It gives me my site ID, the language, the compatibility level, so SharePoint 2016 mode, and then it says features to activate on copy. So when that site is created now from a master, every subsequent site now gets copied at the database level, and then these particular features get activated against it post-site creation. So we mitigate all the feature activation overhead. That's another improvement. The other thing that we've done is, one of the other key challenges is lists. So here I've got a relatively small list, and as you can see, it's not problematic. It's pretty small. But if I go into library settings, one of the new things that you'll see down here at the very bottom is an option that we call automatic indexing for lists. Basically, everybody's probably heard about the 5,000 item list view threshold, or run into it in some way, shape, or form, and everybody's complained about it. And the reason that we had a 5,000 item list view threshold is because in SQL Server, when you perform a query operation that encompasses that number of items, what would occur is a row lock that gets escalated to a table lock. As soon as lock escalation occurs, nobody else in that content database can do anything. That's why we limited it or governed it at 5,000, and then we've had administrative options to increase it to 20,000 for admin operations. But really the idea is to mitigate lock escalation. It was a SQL Server symptom based on the way that we wrote our code. One of the key changes we've made is SharePoint 2016 is no longer subject to lock escalation. That's number one. But the other thing is we do automatic list management as well. So if I go into my timer job definitions, and I scroll down and I get over to L, you're going to notice a new timer job runs as well. Now the problem with lists is that you could mitigate a lot of the challenges with 5,000, the list view threshold to 5,000 items. You could mitigate a lot of the challenges related to sorting and filtering lists if you taught your end users how to create indices against a list. Users don't want to create indices on a list. They want to upload stuff, download stuff, they want to edit list items, and they want to synchronize it to their mobile device. So they don't want to be bothered with performing advanced power user type functions to try to figure out where should I create an index, how should I create an index, what is an index. All I want to do is upload this document, I want to view it later. So one of the things that we did is we introduced what we call automatic list management. And basically what we do is when this timer job runs on a daily basis, we scan lists that are reaching the effective list view threshold. If we determine a list is reaching that threshold, the number we use is 2,500 items, we look at the columns associated with that list. We look at column A and column B. And then we determine where's the right place to place an index programmatically on this particular list. Once our code has determined that, we'll place an index on column A or column B for the user. So two things have been done to mitigate some of the challenges with list view threshold. One is that we're no longer subject to lock escalation because we rewrote all of the way that we handle queries, and our storage procedures have all changed to where we mitigate that. At the same time, we introduced this concept called automatic list management to where we don't have to worry about that anymore, and we don't have to burden the end user. So this is just another way of us improving performance in SharePoint 2016. So that's one of the key changes. So that's a big one that most people like. So some of the other things that we're doing as well from a performance perspective, as you can see, we're continuing to use what we call minimal download strategy, which is why performance has improved and I can navigate around relatively quickly. But now let's talk about some of the hybrid stuff. So we looked at some of the early investments that we're doing to make IT life easier in respect to performance and availability. But let's look at the hybrid side. So here I am at Fabricam again, and I am going to search for myself, Fabricam, and I'm going to hit enter. So as you can see here, we have results from Bing, and then we have results from my on-premises environment. So remember that URL, SharePoint.wbaer.com.co. wbaer.com was taken, so I had to register a domain in Croatia. But so here we go. We've got our on-premises documents. As you can see, we're getting document previews from Office Online Server, which I have deployed on another machine. But let's go ahead and try this again. I found some results, but Fabricam is migrating to the cloud. They want to take advantage of cloud innovation. So I'm going to click on the Sites tile, and you're going to notice a couple of things happen. One is I'm no longer on premises. I'm now in the cloud. So as you can see, it's wbaer-my.sharepoint.com. I'm in Office 365 now. You can see it right up here in the nav header. So let me just go back one more time. Here I am on premises. I've got the app launcher on-prem in 2016. I click on Sites, and you'll notice I'm now in Office 365, and I have that same navigational experience available to me. You're also going to see some things happening down here. It's suggesting sites for me to follow, and I'm also following sites. I'm following a site on premises, and I'm following a site in the cloud. Both of them are showing up in my sites tile. So from on-prem to the cloud, and from the cloud to on-prem, I have a consistent experience. It's also smart enough in our new hybrid scenarios to make recommendations of sites that I should follow. So as you can see, it's suggesting I follow an on-premises site. So our search engine is smart enough to continue to make suggestions regardless of where I am, whether I'm on premises or in Office 365. But what we're going to do is we're going to search Fabricam again here in Office 365, and I'm going to get a set of search results back. As you can see, I'm searching across everything, but look at that, I have on-premises results as well. But I have them as a consistent result set. In the past, hybrid search used to mean federated search. Your query would be federated across on-premises and Office 365, and then you would have two separate result sets returned to you on a single page. You couldn't refine them as a monolithic entity. You couldn't work with them as a monolithic entity, so there was no concept of relevance between on-premises and online content. What you ended up with is two result sets that were presented on a single page. So you can think of it as iframing. Our new cloud hybrid search pulls together the index from on-premises and Office 365. So we unify your search indexes in a way to deliver one result set that you can refine independently. So I can go in and say, author, Bill Baer. As you can see, I'm refining on-prem as well as online documents. You can also see I'm still getting document previews from on-premises as well. So here's an on-premises information discovery doc, here's an on-premises image, here's an online document. So I'm getting results from both, and I can actually go in and I can refine them in a way to where I'm working with it as a monolithic entity. That's nice, but the beauty part is how many of you have heard of Delve? Great, so Delve is an interesting little experiment in discovery. Delve is powered by the Office Graph, which enables us to perform predictive analytics and then provide contextually relevant information back to users based on what we feel like is most relevant to them as well as what's trending around them. So if I click on Delve in Office 365 now, as you can see, it's going to take me into Delve. Here are the people that I work with, and I can come up here in Delve and search for Fabricam. Oops, if I spell it right. That was the Norwegian spelling. So if I come in here, I have documents from on-premises. Welcome to Fabricam. This document actually comes from my on-premises SharePoint environment, and I have documents from the cloud as well. So not only does our new hybrid search experience give you a single result set back, that monolithic entity, a unified index, but it also opens up to you the Delve experience. And then I can take content from the cloud and on-premises, and I can actually go in and add it to boards. So I can take this document here, and I can add it to my Fabricam board, or I can create a new board. So this one is Fabricam, but let's just create a new board called Composo. And I can start adding content to boards as well. And then I can use other cloud-based opportunities as well to work with this information. So I can use Yammer, I can share it, who can look at this document, so I can click here and I can actually get permissions. And look at that, because the document was an on-prem document, in that particular case, it took me back to my on-premises SharePoint site to work with permissioning. So really what our new search does is it unifies a lot of these experiences together. Now that I'm back on-prem, the other thing that we can do very easily is redirect OneDrive for Business. So if I click on my OneDrive icon, it takes me to Office 365 as well. And then I can use tech like Shared With Me. I can use recent items that I've worked with. And again, it's showing me content across Office 365 as well as on-premises. So really, if you think about what we're doing from a hybrid perspective, it's about enabling you to bring innovation back to your users while continuing to sustain your on-premises deployment. So maybe you need to maximize ROI on-prem before you can fully embrace the cloud. Maybe you never intend to fully embrace the cloud, but users want technology such as Delve, Office 365 Video, the Office Graph, OneDrive for Business in the cloud because they want data mobility, but they want it in a way that integrates well with on-premises. Now, sure, you could do a box, you could do a Dropbox, but the problem is your SharePoint search isn't going to encompass information stored in those repositories. You're creating discrete data silos. The way that we think about hybrid is everything should be interconnected to where you can perform discovery against content regardless of where it's located, such as through Delve. You can search across content regardless of where it's located through hybrid search. You can view content regardless of where that content is stored by virtue of using sites. So really what we're doing is trying to make it in a way that these two environments are unified, and then from an end user's perspective, the cloud becomes abstract. Because one of the things that we saw is when end users have to consciously make a decision to navigate to the cloud by entering a URL and then a separate set of credentials, it doesn't work because they don't do that. They want to operate in a way that they've always operated. So this is an opportunity to give them a technology, advanced innovation from the cloud, enabling them to continue to work on premises for a variety of different reasons, but at the same time, enabling it in a way to where the cloud becomes abstract to them. So that's one of the key changes. So how do you get started with hybrid? Well, it used to be hard, really hard. It was pages and pages of documentation, and actually on TechNet, we recommended most people don't even try it, that they reach out to a consulting service. You'll notice some of the investments that we're making is I can actually come in to SharePoint administration now in Office 365, and one of the key changes you'll see if you've enabled your tenant for first release is that there's a new hybrid scenario picker that'll eventually show up here on the screen that enables you to quickly get started with hybrid scenarios. So now what we've tried to do is turn hybrid into a turnkey experience. Come on, Admin Center. So as you can see, we're finally getting to the Admin Center. As soon as I'm in there, we've introduced a new hybrid scenario picker. This hybrid scenario picker is going to continue to evolve as we invest in more hybrid scenarios. Some of the new ones we're doing is custom profile properties to enable you to master profiles either on-prem or in the cloud. We're also looking at the telemetry piece, which will be released with our release candidate and a number of different hybrid opportunities. So here we are with Configure Hybrid. That's new. If you enabled yourself for first release, I can come in and click on what I want to be able to do. I want hybrid OneDrive or I want hybrid sites. Soon you'll see hybrid search, you'll see hybrid telemetry, you'll see hybrid profile, you'll see hybrid video, and all you do is click on it, and it's effectively just a wizard that walks you through setting up hybrid versus the complexities that used to exist in the past. And now with a little bit of time left, I'm actually going to start moving a lot faster. I'm going to blame it on Christian's intro that took forever. So, people-centric compliance, built-in security, data protection, trusted platform. Those are our three things that we are focused on. So on the compliance side, we want to give our customers a great opportunity to discover information stored inside of SharePoint or stored inside of the cloud. That's kind of key number one. We also want to make working with sensitive information easier as well. So moving real fast now, let's just go ahead and I'm going to go back to my on-premises environment. So here we are on-prem. I'm going to navigate into legal and corporate affairs. And here in legal and corporate affairs, let's start with e-discovery. One of the new investments that we've made is this concept that we call sensitive information types. Sensitive information types are effectively us giving you a keyword that initiates a query. That query uses proximity scans to discover information, and it also uses pattern matching. So it's a combination of pattern matching and proximity scans. But it's not just a simple regular expression. So if we're looking for a credit card number, we're not just looking for 16 digits. where each 4 is separated by a dash. We look for corroborating evidence, such as a card expiration number or card security code. So we always look for corroborating evidence. And all of that is part of a proximity scan. So in this case, I'm looking for 2 sensitive information types. So I'm curious, is anybody storing anything with a credit card number or a social security number in my SharePoint environment? So I'm going to click search, and as you can see, it came back with 1 hit. I can actually drill down to see what that hit was. It was a hit on a U.S. social security number, and it's going to give me the document here, candidate profile for Garth Ford. And I can actually navigate to that document to see what's in it, and then I can perform operations on it. I can actually say export this content somewhere else, or I can expunge the content as well. I know where this document happens to live, so we'll just kind of navigate to where that document is. So this is a document that will contain a social security number, and of course it's stored in the human resources site. So let's see, we've got Garth here, and as you can see, there's a social security number. So the question is why didn't it hit on credit card number? Well, we're already hitting on 1, so we don't need to report twice. We're only going to report once. The other thing is, from a proximity scan perspective, this one had higher relevance than the credit card number. If I would move this expires up to be closer to credit card number, the proximity scan would have picked it up with 85% confidence. But because the expiration falls underneath social security number, the way the proximity scan logic works is it found that that's a more appropriate hit. It also uses keywords as well. So credit card number is a great keyword, but it doesn't have the same relevance as something like MasterCard, Visa, Discover would have had. Social security number had a high level of confidence. SSN would have been another one with a high level of confidence. So it takes some understanding to begin using some of this technology, but at the same time, I can easily discover sensitive information in SharePoint 2016 by doing that. So real quick, I'm going to keep on moving because there's a couple of things I wanted to do before I turn everybody loose. Let's go back to legal and corporate affairs. So we've already performed a scan for sensitive information in SharePoint 2016. What about policies? We have a new document deletion center. What I can do is I can actually create complicated policies that define how long documents should be stored inside of SharePoint. I can target it at a site collection, or I can target it farm-wide. So in this particular policy, I created a policy, the sample document policy, that has 3 associated rules: a long-term, a medium-term, and a short-term retention rule. So as you can see, each rule has parameters associated with it, or trigger. In this case, the trigger is modified date plus 1 year, put it in the recycle bin short term. If its modified date is plus 3 years, put it in the recycle bin medium term, and then put it in long term recycle if it's plus 5. So there's a number of different policies that I can create through the Document Deletion Center to facilitate expunging or removing content from my farm programmatically over time. That's important from a litigation perspective. You don't want to keep things forever. You want to keep them as long as you're legally obligated to retain those. And then lastly, in our preview release, we also introduced an in-place hold center. From an in-place hold perspective, I can actually create a SharePoint-wide hold policy, and I can filter it on specific keywords. So I'm looking for Contoso or Contoso Pharmaceuticals. I can get statistics. It shows me that I have 8 items that match my parameter. From here, I can actually create a hold. I can say hold it for 3 years, and then relative to created date or relative to modified date. When I click that, it'll actually hold all of that content across all of my site collections. So if you're responsible for content management or retaining your compliance manager, you can actually go in and apply these broad holds. So that was a real quick demo on that. For developers, we're actually going to ship a lot of the modern file APIs, calendar APIs, mail APIs, the Office 365 suite of APIs to on-premises. So you can build apps once and deploy them anywhere. Full trust code will remain to be supported, and we don't discourage you using it. You also still have the cloud app model as well. So there's tons of developer opportunity as well. So how are we evolving SharePoint? And that's kind of one of the key things, is this is our first step in the evolution of SharePoint, looking to the cloud to define what on-premises looks like. And then as we continue to move forward, we're going to continue to innovate in ways that take advantage of modern web technologies, that continue to build upon the strengths of the cloud, but at the same time, we'll continue to accrue them back to our on-premises customers as well. So long story short, if you're on-premises today and you're going to be for the foreseeable future, this isn't going to be the last on-premises release. SharePoint 2016 isn't the last version of SharePoint we'll ever ship. We're going to continue to innovate there with SharePoint on-premises. We're going to continue to innovate SharePoint in the cloud, and we're going to continue to innovate with hybrid. So as a call to action, one of the things that I would do is download our IT preview release. It'll set you up nicely for our release candidate, which is coming. So get the preview release and start working with it. Everything I showed you today is available in preview. Share your feedback. We have a user voice forum that we actively monitor, and we actually take those suggestions seriously. Follow us on Twitter, and then we also have a new SharePoint 2016 forum. So if you have any questions, definitely ask there. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there because I have one question for the audience, and preferably it's somebody that's new, somebody that I don't know, and somebody that hasn't been with SharePoint forever. So who in the audience, if you think about our development model, we have add-ins, which were previously app parts, which were previously web parts, but does anybody know what we called them before web parts, way back in the early 2000s? No takers on that one. Okay. Close, you're getting close. So, I'm going to give you a hint, and then I'm just going to randomly pick a person. So, how many people are familiar with the NBA? Couple of people? Okay. How many people are familiar with Denver sport teams? All right. Well, they weren't called Avalanches, and they weren't called Broncos. They were called, who said that? All right. So, I've got something for you. Your home office remodel is going to happen today. So, you're going to take the SharePoint beanbags home, and you're going to take, this is pretty awesome. So this is our first copy of SharePoint Portal Server 2001. The first version. Yep.
Still in the shrink wrap.
Yep. So yeah, this is the first one that we ever shipped. It's actually still in the shrink wrap, and I had Jeff Pieper autograph it for you. So this is your home office makeover. The beanbags actually made their way all the way up to Redmond from the very last SharePoint conference. So basically what you have is something from the end of SharePoint conferences and something from the beginning of SharePoint. So that's yours to take with you. I know it's a lot to lug around, all Saturday. You could probably just leave these here, but I wouldn't leave your portal. And you've got 25. I hope that's not a big company because I'm giving you 25 licenses with that as well. So, everybody, thanks for coming out, particularly on a Saturday. It's always great to see our community come out. One of the things I can say is keep the faith. SharePoint's not dead. We're continuing to innovate. We've got a lot in store for 2016 beyond what you've seen today. There's going to be a ton of investments that are super exciting over the course of the next 12 months before we get to our release. So there's a lot in store for SharePoint moving forward. By far, it's not dead. It remains viable. I know everybody's kind of heard that SharePoint is dead, or we're killing SharePoint in favor of the cloud, or we're carving up SharePoint.
Bill Baer says SharePoint is dead.
No. So yeah. So SharePoint is alive and well, and we're continuing to innovate both on-prem as well as in the cloud. And I'm glad you stuck with us through the troubling times, particularly the last 18 months where we haven't really said a lot. But as you can see, we're getting more and more engaged. We're showing up at more and more conferences. We're trying to do more and more to get the community involved and get that level of excitement back up. The other thing that I'll mention in the very end is, again, make sure you visit our sponsors. They make all of this possible, particularly the infused water that I requested that's down the hall, as well as no brown M&Ms. So.
Thank you, Bill, for coming. Have to do the selfie with Bill. So we've got 10 minutes.